first, I want to congratulate you. What Thomas has created with Warhorse, just very briefly, tell them, it's such an impressive organization and idea. It's a very small organization, but it's about military journalism in a different way. Tell us what that is.
So the Warhorse is a team of 7 full-timers right now that we're a nonprofit newsroom focused on the human impact of military service. What we do is we publish long-form investigative reporting. We host writing seminars that train the next generation of writers that are veterans and military family members.
Right. And they've done great. Kelly Kennedy, who is part of your team, the reporting that she did on toxic exposure was, I think, instrumental.
Kelly's impact on the veteran community and as far as raising awareness about toxic exposure has, I think, really helped to you and other advocates have a tremendous impact on the veteran community and make sure that future service members that are poisoned by the Department of Defense get the health care that they deserve.
Yes, and they will be. That's kind of how that's how they operate.
It's kind of their thing.
What did you think when you started it? What were you not seeing in military reporting that made you think there is a better way to connect these stories to veterans themselves and to active military service members?
So when I first got off active duty, I worked as a local reporter outside of Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. I was the last full-time military reporter in 2014 when I left to go to journalism school. So there hasn't been a military reporter in Eastern North Carolina at the 2nd largest Marine Corps base in the world since, well, for 10 years now. So what I noticed at the boots on the ground level was I was covering stories of national importance, and because of the decline in the military or in the journalism ecosystem, those stories weren't being picked up. People weren't hearing about them. And it wasn't until I published one story about the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act in 2013, where they were cutting suicide prevention care for active duty service members. I wrote a story about that. The Secretary of Defense, within 3 days, reversed the furloughs, restored mental health care to full capacity. And it was a moment in my career where I felt like I really saved a life. And at that moment, I asked myself, like, how can there be a national newsroom that focuses on these topics and help increase awareness among the American public to the issues that veterans and military families face?
Yeah, I have to say, it's a remarkable what you guys do. Now, the tough part is, here's the part that makes me crazy. So it's a nonprofit,
yes,
which most of news is now, not by choice.
Right.
But how difficult is it? This is such an important service to the military community, to the nation as a whole, and yet you've got to go out there and raise the money to keep just 7 people out there being able to do that. How difficult is it to even get funding for these things?
Warhorse was brought to life by 550 donors on Kickstarter back in 2016. That was back when it was just myself with an idea.
It's just a web thing.
It was just a web thing.
Wow.
I went to journalism school at Columbia, graduated, and I left with no plans of having a job. I just wanted to start the Warhorse. I figured I was young enough, and it was an opportunity for me to have what I thought was a massive impact on the military and veteran community. And I just decided to run with it. And then those people wound up investing in me and investing in the idea. And at that point, I just couldn't give up. I had to keep going.
You weren't just sitting in your basement vaping. That's a thing that's going around now. A lot of kids these days, they sit in the basement vaping. Don't answer that. Don't answer that. Don't answer that. Along with the work that you did, so I think what's remarkable about your story, and I've known you for a long time, and I'm just such an admirer of your dedication, but I didn't know your whole story, to be frank, until recently. This is now the 20th anniversary of the Battle of Fallujah, which I think Americans, for the most part, have heard of because it was considered one of the just most bloodiest, dangerous battles. That was it November? November is the anniversary of that battle.
Correct. November 7th of this month was the 20th anniversary of Operation Phantom Fury.
So you've done something, I think, that must be incredibly difficult for you. As a journalist, you generally are outside of the sphere of the story, but this is something, you were there.
Yes.
What made you decide to want to tell the story of Fallujah and the group that you were with at that time, and to tell it now?
For 20 years, I have watched as the conversation about war and the experiences of the men and women who actually execute those wars on the ground be controlled by public affairs officers and senior military officials, whether they're generals or officials at the Pentagon. And I have a platoon that I served with in Iraq, and I have very unique access to be able to talk to them about our experiences. So around the 19th anniversary, I went back to them and I said, I really want to tell our story. I want to show the American public what happened during Phantom Fury from our perspective. And without hesitation, all of the Marines and corpsmen that you see in the film that we created jumped at the opportunity and never hesitated for a moment to hop on camera and share their story with the American public.
And I thought what was so interesting is you don't ever shy away from the fact that many of you struggled from that, but weren't able really to even share it with each other. And if you don't mind, would you mind telling the story of, your platoon, unfortunately, didn't come back intact?
For 20 years, I think it's fair to say we've avoided the conversation with each other. One of the things that I think is abundantly clear in the film is that we all struggle with survivor's guilt. Like our corpsman blames himself that he couldn't save Bradley Faircloth. I blame myself. I was down the street, and it's completely irrational for me to believe that I should have shot a rocket into that house. But I feel that way. My lieutenant, he was in charge of our entire platoon. He feels like he has a burden of responsibility for why Bradley didn't make it home. So it was a healing series of conversations that we were able to have back in August. And I'm just incredibly proud of, I mean, our corpsmen and the Marines that I served with were willing to just put their heart on display for the American public in the hopes that they would listen to our sacrifices. Like, we are just a dozen Marines from a battle that included well over 1,000 of us. And that doesn't include the Iraqis and the Brits and the other people that participated with us. And whether you were a mortuary affairs Marine, an infantryman, a pilot, or admin processing the casualty reports back at the base, every single person who was in Iraq at that point felt the impact of Fallujah, and it's continued to shape how we fight our wars and how we deploy our troops up to today.
And the fact that you're able to tell this story, we spoke about this a few times, about the moral injury, about war being a failure on all levels of human civilization. And the fact that you guys signed up for something knowing the price you could pay, and maybe even some of the things that had to be done, but that leaving things on your soul.
Mm-hmm. It's easy to look at an Army infantryman or a Marine infantryman and say, like, oh yes, they signed up to go see combat or to go off to war. But there's one thing that I think the average American just doesn't understand, is that everybody who enlists or is commissioned in the military, regardless of whether you're admin or you work in a hospital or you fix trucks and turn wrenches or you're special forces or a grunt, like, everybody is willing to make that same sacrifice. So I think that we just really need to start paying attention more to what we're asking service members and their families to endure on behalf of us as a country. It's a vital part of the conversation that's just missing, and it's even less present in the journalism ecosystem. Less than 5% of all journalism focuses on the military and national security, whereas, as you've talked about before, it's our #1 budget item in this country. Mm-hmm. So the disparity of the conversation that we're having and the conversation that needs to be had, it pales in. There's no contest.
And I'm always struck also by the kind of almost schizophrenic cultural way that we relate to the military. I watched football all day yesterday, and it was a celebration, justifiably so, of people's sacrifice, but it was so steeped in kind of a numbing patriotism that didn't really explore, as you're saying. And then I watched what you had filmed, and the disparity between what the soldiers are experiencing and what their families are experiencing, and the kind of rah, it's Veterans Day, come to Denny's for 10% off. It's really jarring.
It hurts as a veteran. I mean, it really does. I think I can speak for a lot of us when I say the performative thank you for your services, where somebody just continues walking and continues their day. Me personally, I'd rather not get that.
Right.
What I really want from the American public on Veterans Day and every other day is for them to actually care, like care about the policies that are put into place that are going to affect veterans and military families and active duty service members. You know, care about the use of force and when we send people off to combat. Don't wait till the 10th or 20th anniversary of a battle to reconnect with the service members who fought it. Like, be proactive in this conversation, because like, if it ever comes to the point where we get to a draft, or where we need to send people off to war, like, it's going to be your son, it's going to be your daughter, it's going to be our nation's children who are answering that call. And like, when that happens, it's too late to actually care.
Right. And we need to understand what the true cost of that is.
Yes.
Not just as a budget line item. I want to play something from the documentary. You know, there's something in it. You talked about, you were there with the Navy corpsmen, and you talked a little bit about the responsibility, not just that your whole, platoon felt, but that the Navy corpsmen in particular, that they sort of suffer in a strange silence. And this is, it's a little bit from, I believe it's Fairclough's mother.
Yes. Speaking
about the death of her son and the Army corpsman as well. So can we run that real quick?
I guess knowing Bradley wasn't alone when he died was the most comforting. And then seeing how much each one of you cared about him was sort of amazing to me. I don't think I really saw too much of your pain at that memorial service. I was kind of in a state of shock, but I really felt like they were being strong, so I'd be strong.
My relationship with Kathleen means a lot. She treats me as if I was one of her own. I can feel that she loves me just as much as a mother could love one of their kids, and that means a lot. She's constantly telling me it's not my fault. I need to stop blaming myself.
What did that moment mean to him?
So that's Ronaldo Aponte. He is our corpsman. Corpsmen are why Marines run into fire. They are why we stare down machine guns. They are why we are willing to kick in doors. It's because we know that they might not save us, but they are going to do everything that they can. As a Marine, I cannot understate how much corpsmen mean to us. The pain that I have seen Ronaldo carry for losing Fairclough and has been tremendous over the last 20 years. And watching him we were sitting inside of the Fallujah exhibit at the National Museum of the Marine Corps. And what a lot of people don't realize is that Doc was kicked out for smoking weed after we got back from Iraq. And the Marine Corps publicly shamed him and told them that he lost his honor and that he shouldn't be proud of his service. And I feel like this film led our platoon. It helped Doc feel pride in his service again. It helped Doc feel like he tried his best. It helped all of us see Doc take a legitimate step forward in his healing. And like I said to the Marine Corps when I thanked him for letting us film there, was like Doc and our entire platoon left that exhibit with our packs much lighter. Listening to Kathleen read her son's final letter in there, listening to Doc claim what the Marine Corps did to him and how it's left a mark on his life. It may sound selfish, but it made the Marines in the platoon feel like we had his back the same way that he had our back under fire. And Yeah, I hope more than anything as I continue moving forward and as this film continues to build up steam and is that Doc continues his journey to healing, because if there's anybody in our platoon that deserves it, it's him.
Well, Thomas, I can't tell you how incredible the work is. It's not selfish at all. It is everything that I think the Marine Corps stands for, which is we don't leave anybody behind no matter what happens. You do amazing work. Love you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thomas Brennan, Shadows of Fallujah, warhorse.org.